In this video, I'm going to be bringing you 20 more aspects of living in Cyprus for expats. My name is Brian, and I'm here on my path to Paphos. I'm a Brit-Irishman who's emigrated to Cyprus in April 2025, and I'm trying to bring you some of the aspects of life that I've witnessed myself, which have made Cyprus a really wonderful place for me, an expat, to live. So let's have a look at another 20 aspects of life. There's a video which if you have a look upside, if you haven't seen it already, gives you the first 20. Here's another 20 aspects to living as an expat in Cyprus. Let's have a look. Number one is the pace of life. It is a very laid-back pace of life, considerably more so than most other Northern European countries. It is very, very laid back. The common thing is slowly, zigga over here. They have a very laid back aspect to life. They do get jobs done though. They're not inefficient, but they do have a very laid back aspect of life. And as an expat coming over here, either as somebody who's working or as a retiree, if you're working, you will work hard. But if you're a retiree, then this is a wonderful place to live and a really laid back, enjoyable speed of life over here. Number two, siesta time. Yes, they have siestas over here. The midday sun can, especially in the summertime, be incredibly hot and just unbearable. So quite often you'll find that sort of lunchtime till mid-afternoon, a lot of offices, banks, shops will close, and you'll find that they'll open into the evening, but have that siesta time mainly just to get out of the heat of the midday sun. Noise levels in number three, and yes, it can be noisy. You tend to get an awful lot of things like barking dogs and fireworks going off for no apparent reason, and especially if there's festivals. Festivals can be very, very noisy, but if you join in with the festivals, you're part of it anyway, so you can really enjoy them. But if you're not one to be part of it, it can get a little bit noisy, but overall it tends to not be too bad. Number four, tipping culture. Now if you're coming over from the States, for instance, you'll find it very, very different to what you're used to. There is a tipping culture over here, about 5 to 10% as normal, but it's not mandatory and it's not pushed. It's not a sort of common thing as it is in the States, where it's almost a de rigueur, but it is appreciated by the certain stuff over here. Wages aren't huge, so if you can tip somebody, then it's well worth it, especially for a short visit on holiday, because usually the quality of what you get insofar as service and insofar as product is second to none. So between 5 and 10% is a normal sort of tip, but it's not mandatory. Number five, I said in my previous video there'll be some things which are totally alien to you coming from the UK, and some things which are very, very much at home. And number five is the electric sockets. These are the type G sockets, the same we have in the UK. The wiring regulations are very, very similar. The voltage and current regulations are identical to the UK, so you don't need adapters. If you're coming from the UK, you don't need adapters. Just bring your normal things across. If you've got a hairdryer or curling tongs or electric chargers for your phone or whatever, they'll just plug in and work. Don't worry about them. It's UK standard electrics. Number six is the language barriers. Now, I did say in my previous video that the majority of people over here are Greek speakers on this part of the island, but it's not mandatory, it's not really necessary, because the majority of people over here can speak very, very good English. It's a multicultural area. However, when it comes to bureaucracy and forms, especially government forms, the majority are in Greek and have to be completed in Greek. So if you do have government forms like that, you need to find a good translation service. They're very, very common. A lot of the legal places will do translation for you for a very, very small fee. But a lot of the bureaucracy forms and the government forms are in Greek only. And number seven, driving habits. And you'll find I did a video about driving habits, a very tongue-in-cheek one not so long back, but it can be very, very chaotic. They do drive on the left-hand side of the road, the same as in the UK and Ireland, so don't let that put you off. And a lot of the road signs and things are very, very similar, based on the UK ones. However, you'll find that driving can be very, very chaotic. You need to keep your wits about. You'll have cars coming from everywhere. And don't be surprised at the amount of parking on pavements or just stopping in the middle of the road, or parking on roundabouts. You get it all over the place. It is different, it's a bit chaotic, but it's actually great fun as well. It's enjoyable to drive. Don't let it put you off. It is worth learning. It is worth coming over here and driving. It's enjoyable, it's fun, and it gets you around the island. Local bureaucracy is in number 8. There's a lot of local bureaucracy. A lot goes to the mukta, which is basically the sort of the town elder, if you like, the mayor of a local district or whatever. That's the closest description of a mukta I can think of off the top of my head. But there's an awful lot of stamps and forms and all sorts. done in duplicate, triplicate, quadruplicate, all sorts of things. It can be a real pain to get a simple job done. So be aware of that. It's part of the life over here, part of living, but there's a lot of local bureaucracy, and sometimes they can get tedious. In at number 9 is seasonal shifts. You'll find that a lot of businesses will close down in parts of the year, close down in the winter because, well, it's a very tourist-driven island in most of the big city areas. If they don't shut down, then they may reduce their hours, and that's a very, very common thing to happen. They've got to make their business, they've got to make it pay, and if the business is open all hours, then they're using resources, electricity and water and things. So you'll find a lot of businesses will pay off some of the staff in the winter time, or as it gets out of season, and maybe reduce their hours or close altogether, especially hotels and bars. Number 10. Pension transfers. Really interesting if you're coming over here to live. British expats often transfer pensions using, and I've got to read these off, QROPS or SIPs. Now, I'll just quickly find this on here because I need to find out what a QROPS or a SIP is, and I've got a description here. So, QROPS is, I'm going to be reading this off. Yeah. If you're a UK expat living in Cyprus, you may have heard of the term QROPS. It stands for Qualifying Recognised Overseas Pension Scheme. Basically, it lets you move your UK pension into an approved overseas scheme, often giving you more control of your money, better tax treatment, which is really important, and payments in euros instead of pounds. It's popular with British retirees in Cyprus because it can reduce how much tax you pay on your pension and help avoid currency exchange losses. But, and this is very important, not every pension or country qualifies, so always speak to a licensed financial advisor before making any moves. SIPs, I've just mentioned those, and SIPs stands for Self-Invested Personal Plan. It's a type of UK pension plan that gives you more control of how your pensions and savings are invested. In simple terms, a SIP is a bit of sort of do-it-yourself pension, if you like. Instead of a provider choosing where your money goes, you choose the investments. It could include stocks and shares, investment funds, commercial property or bonds. Now they stay in the UK, they don't get transferred over, so there would still be a UK element on that one, but it can give you some flexibility. So there's an awful lot of things that you can do to better your pensions. When I've said about pensions, we get on to number 11, which is taxes. Cyprus, and you need to talk to a financial advisor on this because there's various schemes, but Cyprus gives some real tax incentives. And if you're setting businesses up over here, or if you just even want to do your own personal pension plans and things, Cyprus gives some great incentives where you can save an awful lot of money rather than paying in UK tax. You do need a financial advisor who understands both the Cypriot and the UK tax situation. But if you can find a good advisor, they'll be able to save you possibly thousands or tens of thousands of pounds or euros each year on your tax just by living here and transferring things over here properly. Number 12, garbage or rubbish collection. Now it's a little bit different in the UK. A lot of the rural areas use centralised bins. I know I've got them here, so we have some skips at the end of the road where we'll empty our rubbish bins into, and they're regularly connected, quite often in the evening. But rubbish collection does tend to be very, very good. But don't be surprised if you're driving around and see a whole load of rubbish skips just at the side of the road. It looks untidy, but it's very efficient in its service. Number 13. Social integration. Now you'll find that the locals over here, the Cypriots, are really friendly people. They're very welcoming. However, it does take a lot to break down the barriers and really get accepted by them. One of the things you can do is just learn some basic Greek. You don't have to be fluent in the language, but I found if you just learn some simple Greek phrases, simple Greek words, just enough to get you by and to be pleasant and to introduce yourself and to ask for the basic things in life, then you can get an awful long way. I said in a previous video about socializing. One of the things that I've learned is it is worth, if somebody invites you to a local event, they'll probably only ever ask you once as a foreigner coming in. But if they do ask you, take the time to go and integrate with them. Go in there. Once you've been to one of those things, you'll be invited to them every time. But if you're a bit standoffish, well, maybe they'll just treat you as an expat Brit and ignore you from that. I found that getting involved with the Greek culture, the Greek Cypriot culture, shall I say, is well worth doing, and you'll be made incredibly welcome. 14, drinking water. Is it safe to drink the water? Well, yes it is. Quite a lot of times you'll have a separate drinking tap as opposed to a washing tap. For instance, my sink bowl in the kitchen has 3 taps. One for the drinking water, one for the cold water from the tank up on the in the ceiling, and the other one from the hot water tank in the ceiling, or from the immersion heater. Generally during the summer you've got on tap hot water almost as much as you need, but in the winter you might have to use a heating. But generally if you go for the drink water tap, yes, it is safe. However, an awful lot of people prefer to get water in bottles, and water in bottles is plentiful. It's in all the supermarkets. You can get it very, very easy, and of course that can get around some of the problems when you have some of the water outages and a bit of a drought. So really in summer, worth stocking up on the bottled water. Number 15, does it get cold in the winter? Well, yes, it does, and you're going to need heating. So you'll find that a lot of the houses don't have heating systems, so you find there's an awful lot of portable heaters go around in the winter. It can be expensive to run those, but luckily the cold days don't tend to be anywhere near as much as it is in the UK, and don't tend to be anywhere as severe. Although when you've been out here a little while and you're living out here, you'll find that you adapt very, very quickly. So what you would have considered a warm day back in the UK, after a couple of years living in Cyprus, even what we consider moderate temperatures in the UK would be considered freezing cold over here. But generally you don't get heating. Some air conditioning units you can put into heaters as well, so be aware of that. Although they tend to be blowing the cold air from the warm air from the wrong way. Cold air tends to sink, so they tend to be high. Normal heating systems tend to be low and the hot air will rise. So they're not necessarily the most efficient of heaters, but a lot of the air conditioning units are dual function. Now 17 is public holidays, and I mentioned this in the previous video. It's a Greek Orthodox society over here, and it's very, very keen on following religion, and it does tend to have a very strong effect. So don't be surprised on bank holidays and religious holidays to find all the shops shut, or a vast majority of the shops shut, and certainly all the main sort of city centre businesses will be closed on those holidays. And just remember that these holidays will act on the day of the week, not necessarily just a Monday like you have in the UK, but these will happen on various days of the week. So don't be surprised if on a Tuesday you suddenly can't get anything done. You have to keep your eye open for the public holidays, and you'll find that there are quite a lot of them. Home deliveries, very different to the UK. We're used to putting home deliveries in. I mean, we have the usual sort of Amazon and eBay and things coming to our front door all the time in the UK. But over here, it can be very vague. Addresses can be a little bit confusing at times, and it can be very, very slow. The other thing is as well, even if you do get the deliveries through, you tend to find that you don't get deliveries to the home. It tends to go to a central depot where you have to go and pick it up and take ID with you. So the home delivery culture that we have in the UK is very, very alien over here, and you can't really rely on it at all. And that leads us on to number 19, which is normal post delivery. Now, it is here, we tend to have little external mailboxes, similar to they have in the States, but ours are just on the front of the house, tend to be very small for letters only. If you get deliveries of packages, anything like that, you're almost certainly going to have to go and pick it up from a central depot and take some ID with you. They can be very, very slow. My wife just sent out a couple of cards for me, and it took 3.5 weeks with first class post from the UK. So it's not the easiest one, and again the addresses you have to be very, very careful on. They can be rather vague, so don't be surprised if your post takes a long time to come, or maybe doesn't come at all. Number 20, we're finally at the end of this list of additional 20 aspects of living as an expat in Cyprus, and this is number 20, and that's entertainment. There's a huge amount of entertainment over here, from live concerts and festivals to normal bars and clubs and things in the town. There's a lot of entertainment goes on, of a huge variety of things. A lot of Western entertainment, a lot of Western singers and things, but also an awful lot of traditional dancing and singing over here, and bouzouki playing and things like that. It is very, very rich, very, very varied, and there's almost all the time something for everybody to see every night of the week, especially in the summer time. Come the winter time, you might find that it becomes almost non-existent, depending on where you are on the island. If you're off on the east side of Ayia Napa, well, basically it probably closes down in the off period. Across in the west, in Paphos or maybe Limassol, you find that there's an awful lot more opportunity to see things. And of course, in the cities themselves, there's always something going on insofar as concerts and entertainment. Anyway, I hope you've been entertained on this video. If you have, please consider giving a subscription. Hit the subscribe button, whichever side it's on for you, because that really does help, and it costs you nothing. And at the moment, some 60+% of my subscribers, of my viewers, are not subscribers. So the majority don't subscribe to the channel, but they still watch it. So please consider hitting the subscribe button. It costs you nothing. While you're subscribing, give me a thumbs up. And if you've enjoyed and found any of these points useful, maybe you might consider buying me a coffee. There's a link below where you can give a little bit of financial support if you want to the channel. It really does help. And thank you to everybody who has. You can get there by buymeacoffee.com/Brian James. And if you look that up on Google, you'll find it too. There you can buy me a coffee and just give a little bit of help for the channel as a thank you for the information I've given. But anyway, till the next time when I'm on my path to Paphos, join me again, and I look forward to seeing you. Hopefully subscribed, but I'll see you anyway. Bye-bye.